Why you shouldn't buy a drone? Seriously, drones look incredible online. Smooth cinematic shots, empty roads, perfect sunset, and FPV drones, they make you feel like you're flying through another world. But after owning and using drones for a while, I realized nobody talks about the frustrating part. The stress, the restrictions, the crashes, the wasted money, and how a drone can actually make filming less enjoyable. The first reason is restrictions. There are very high chances you won't actually be able to fly your drone where you planned to. A lot of people buy a drone imagining total freedom, flying over mountains, cities, beaches, roads, and famous landmarks. But the reality is very different. Drones are heavily restricted in many parts of the world, and the list of no-fly zones keeps growing every year. Near airports, strictly banned, almost everywhere for obvious safety reasons, and the restricted zones around airports are often much bigger than people expect, especially near major international cities. Military bases and buildings completely off limits in most countries. The same goes for many government buildings and sensitive infrastructure. You want to fly in a big city? Good luck! Many cities are already introducing stricter drone laws, and some places ban flying almost entirely. Even if the city itself technically allows drones, there's usually another problem. Nearby airports, government buildings, embassies, or some other things which can massively limit where you can actually take off and fly legally. A perfect example is New York Central Park. It looks like the ideal drone location in movies and photos, but in reality flying there is strictly banned. And it's not just that. There are many other sensitive areas where flying is restricted or completely forbidden, such as power plants, oil refineries, ports, harbors, embassies, and prisons. You also can't fly over crowds in public events, festivals, or stadiums. In many countries, national parks are also off the list and completely forbidden for drones. Border areas and crossings are another major limitation, and flying near borders is usually fully prohibited. And finally, public beaches. This is something that surprises a lot of beginners. You might think a wide open beach would be a perfect, harmless place to fly a drone, but in reality, many beaches restrict drone flying, especially during the summer season. So what looks like endless freedom from the ground often turns into a map full of invisible no-fly zones once you actually start planning where to fly and how to fly. And it changes all the time. So location may be allowed this year and a completely no-go the next. You always need to make sure that flying is allowed and check several sites or maps because some of them aren't regularly updated. The second reason is a complete drone ban. If you plan to travel abroad and want to make some cool videos with your drone, you may find yourself in big trouble because some countries ban them completely. Depending on the country, drone regulations may fall in one of the following categories: prohibited and illegal to own, allowed only with special government permission, allowed but registration required, allowed to own but registration and a flight license required, allowed to own but prohibited to import, and finally allowed. Now you may think, great, I am allowed to fly in a certain country and make amazing videos, but stop right there. The third reason is that even if flying a drone is allowed and legal, filming may not be. Some countries require additional permissions for aerial photography or videography, while others go even further by requiring footage to be reviewed by authorities before it can even be published. It is also worth noting that some countries only allowed filming for personal use, meaning you can't publish the footage anywhere. Even if you go vigilant and somehow manage to film something unnoticed, you may still get fined later after publishing it online. Because what else are you going to do with the footage? To complicate matters even more, A flight license from one country may not be recognized by another. And in some cases, laws may even vary between different regions within the same country. The fourth reason is the time investment. You need to invest time in learning all the rules, how to fly safely, and basic drone operations. You also need to consider that when traveling, a drone is another thing that you have to carry in your luggage. Remember to recharge, bring additional batteries and spare parts, and also protect it inside your bag. It can also become a distraction from your adventure, with the constant need to stop, take it out, power it on, fly for a few minutes and then pack it back again, only to repeat the process and the next location. So you end up filming instead of experiencing. Sometimes it is simply not worth the hassle. The fifth reason is money. Drones are getting cheaper and cheaper every day, but still, if you want smooth, sharp footage, you still need something good, and something good usually costs more money. A mid-range drone from a reputable company is usually the minimum. And don't even look at the cheap Chinese drone toys. They usually have a very low resolution, low quality cameras and no safety options whatsoever. Another reason is that drones are the only camera gear that destroy themselves. The possibility of crashing your drone is very real, especially if you are an experienced pilot, and it's not a matter of if, but when it will happen. Even the best pilots experience crashes. The possibilities are endless. The bad weather, wind, software bugs, hardware failure, operator mistakes, distractions, you name it. Because of this, drones should be considered disposable. Imagine spending €1,000 on a drone that literally crashes on its first flight. Or imagine the worst, it could also damage someone's property or cause an injury. On the positive side, however, drones are constantly improving with better safety systems and protection features. The sixth reason is that drones can be annoying. The constant noise can ruin your footage or disturb people, especially in residential areas. People may walk up to you to argue about flying over their property, complain about the noise, or even accuse you of spying. In some cases, they might call the police, even when you are following all the rules. And if people already complain about someone filming with a phone in public, you can imagine the reaction when they see a drone in the air. Often it's simply a lack of understanding of how drone laws actually work, or they are completely ignorant. The seventh reason is something most people don't even think about at first: the weather. Drones are extremely sensitive to weather conditions, much more than you expect. Even a light wind can affect stability, shake the footage, or drain the battery faster than normal. Rain is an obvious no-go, but even fog, humidity, and low clouds can ruin visibility and make flying unsafe or pointless. Cold temperatures can also reduce battery performance significantly, cutting your flight time in half or more. And even strong sunlight or rapidly changing light conditions can affect exposure and make your shots inconsistent. You can spend a huge amount of time going to some amazing location and still end up unable to fly or get the shots because of bad weather. The eighth and final reason is for content creators. Once there was a time when drone footage naturally enhanced video, making it look cinematic, especially with wide establishing shots or breathtaking locations rarely seen before. And don't get me wrong, it still does that today. But there is a growing number of people who dislike drone footage for several reasons. It can make videos look too polished or even fake, and show places from perspectives that you wouldn't never experience in real life. Everything tends to look better from the sky, which can create unrealistic expectations of a destination. On top of that, drone shots are becoming so common that many people now find them repetitive or boring, especially when they don't actually add anything to the story. all of these are important reasons to seriously think about before buying a drone. So don't rush into it and make sure you do proper research before spending any money. A good first step is to install a drone simulator on your phone and try to learn the basics of flying before you can even buy a real one. That alone can save you from a lot of beginner mistakes and even crashes. And even after that, it's usually smarter to start small. Instead of going straight for an expensive model, consider buying a used drone or something in the mid-range first. That way you can learn in real conditions without the pressure of risking a high-end device. If you still enjoy it after some time and feel confident with flying, then upgrading later becomes a much safer and more justified decision. In the end, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and I'll see you in the next one.